The phone wouldn't stop ringing. I stared at it vibrating against the marble countertop. The name Work Miller, flashing across the screen for the third time in 5 minutes. The shower was still running upstairs. Steam probably fogging the glass doors. My husband Jake humming that off-key tune he always hummed when he thought no one was listening. My hand hovered over the phone. He'd been getting these calls lately. Always stepping out of the room. Always with that tight smile that didn't quite reach his eyes when I asked who it was. Just work stuff, babe. You know how Miller gets about the quarterly reports. The ringing stopped. Started again immediately. Something cold slithered down my spine. This wasn't normal. Work didn't call 4 times in a row at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I picked up the phone, my thumb hovering over the answer button. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I could feel it in my throat. I answered. Hi, Daddy. Mommy says we can go to the park today if you come home early. The voice was small, sweet, innocent. A child's voice, bright with excitement and trust. My entire world tilted sideways. Hello. The voice came again, uncertain now. Daddy. My mouth opened but no sound came out. The bathroom upstairs had gone silent. The water had stopped. Is Daddy there? Another voice now, older, feminine, sharp with concern. A woman had taken the phone. Who is this? I ended the call with shaking fingers. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered against the counter. The sound echoed through our kitchen. The kitchen where we'd cooked together last night, where he'd kissed my forehead and told me he loved me, where we'd laughed about the burnt garlic bread and ordered pizza instead. Footsteps on the stairs. I grabbed the phone and shoved it back exactly where it had been, screen down, and stumbled backward to the coffee maker. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the mug. Coffee sloshed over the rim, burning my fingers. I didn't feel it. Morning, beautiful. Jake's voice, warm and familiar, the same voice that had whispered vows to me 5 years ago. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, pressing a kiss to my neck. His skin was warm from the shower, smelling of the sandalwood soap I'd bought him for Christmas. I closed my eyes. Forced myself to breathe. Morning, I whispered. His phone buzzed once. A text message. He pulled away and I felt the shift immediately, that subtle tension in his shoulders, the way his hand moved too quickly to grab it. Work? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. Yeah. He smiled at me, that same smile I'd trusted for 5 years. Miller's losing his mind about Monday's presentation. I might need to head into the office for a few hours. The office. Or the park with the child who called him Daddy. Okay, I said softly. He kissed my forehead and disappeared into his study. I stood alone in our kitchen, coffee cooling in my hands, and felt the first crack spider web through the foundation of everything I'd believed was real. That little voice echoed in my head. Hi, Daddy. And I knew, with the kind of certainty that lives in your bones, that my life as I knew it was already over. I just didn't know yet how deep the betrayal ran, or how dark I was willing to go to make him pay for it. Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. The first 3 days after the phone call, I didn't confront him. I didn't scream or cry or throw his things onto the lawn like every instinct demanded. Instead, I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone cold, calculating, patient. I watched him. Really watched him for the first time in months, maybe years. All those small details I'd ignored suddenly snapped into sharp focus. The way he angled his phone away from me when he typed. How he'd started going to the gym 3 times a week when he used to hate exercise. The new cologne. The fresh haircut every 2 weeks instead of his usual monthly trim. You look nice, I'd said absently, and he'd smiled. Trying to stay attractive for my wife, he joked, pulling me close. I'd melted into that kiss, believing it. God, how stupid I'd been. On Monday he left for work at 7:30. I waited exactly 15 minutes, then I followed him. My hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel as I kept 3 cars back, the way they do in movies. It felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body. This wasn't my life. I didn't follow my husband. I trusted him. We were happy. Except we weren't. Happiness had been a carefully constructed lie, and I'd been too comfortable to notice the cracks. He didn't go to his office downtown. Instead, he drove north toward the suburbs we talked about moving to someday. When we have kids, he'd always said. When we're ready to start our family. The irony tasted like acid on my tongue. He pulled into the driveway of a 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a swing set in the yard. A swing set. My vision blurred. I parked down the street, partially hidden behind a landscaping truck. The front door opened before he reached it. She was beautiful. Blonde where I was dark. Tall and willowy in yoga pants and an oversized sweater. And young. God, she couldn't have been more than 25. She smiled at him, radiant and trusting, and he kissed her. Not a peck. A real kiss, the kind that spoke of familiarity and affection and routine. The kind of kiss that belonged to me. A little girl burst through the door behind them. Maybe 5 years old, dark hair in pigtails, wearing a pink jacket. She threw herself at Jake's legs and he scooped her up, spinning her around. Her laughter carried across the quiet street, piercing and pure. I watched my husband, carry another man's child. No. Carry his child into a house that wasn't ours, with a woman who wasn't me, living a life that existed in the same space and time as our marriage. How long? How long had this been happening? The door closed behind them. I sat in my car staring at that house with its cheerful blue shutters and its white picket fence and its goddamn swing set, and something inside me died. That part of me that believed in goodness and trust and forever. Something else was born in its place. Something hard and hungry and ruthless. I took out my phone and started taking pictures. The house. The address. The license plate of the silver minivan in the driveway. A minivan, Jesus Christ, he'd bought her a family car while driving the BMW we'd saved 2 years to afford. Then I went home and I started digging. Our home office had always been Jake's domain. I used the laptop in the living room for my freelance graphic design work. He needed the office for his high-pressure finance job that required confidential client files and secure systems. More lies. Such carefully constructed lies. I'd never snooped before. Never felt the need to. What kind of marriage required going through your partner's things? A broken one, I realized now. Or maybe a fake one. His computer was password protected, but I knew Jake. He was smart about some things, careless about others. I tried our anniversary. Wrong. My birthday. Wrong. His birthday. Wrong. Then, on a hunch that made my stomach turn, I tried the little girl's birthday, or what I guessed it might be based on her age. I went back 5 years in the calendar on his phone, which I'd memorized the passcode to years ago. His old college football number never changed. March 15th, 5 years ago. He'd told me he had a week-long conference in Seattle. I'd been disappointed because it was close to our anniversary, but understanding. Always so understanding. I typed in 0315. The computer unlocked. The scream that built in my throat died there, trapped behind clenched teeth. I had to stay quiet. Stay calm. I couldn't fall apart yet. Not until I knew everything. His email was a labyrinth of deception. 2 separate accounts. One for his real work, mundane and boring. Another was the entire life I knew nothing about. Emails to my darling Helen, going back 6 years. 6. We'd been married for 5. He'd been with her longer than he'd been faithful to me. I scrolled through with shaking hands, my eyes scanning words that branded themselves into my brain. Can't wait to see you and Emma this weekend. Tell our princess daddy we'll bring her that dollhouse she wanted. I'm sorry I can't be there for her birthday party. You know how difficult it is getting away. But I'll make it up to her. To both of you. I love you. Helen, you're my everything. You and Emma are my real family. I just need more time to figure out how to leave without losing everything financially. The prenup her father made me sign is ironclad. But soon, my love. Soon we'll be together full time. The prenup. Of course. My father had insisted, despite my protests. Protect yourself, sweetheart, he'd said. You never really know someone. I'd been embarrassed, thought it showed a lack of faith. My father had been right. Jake hadn't stayed with me for love. He'd stayed for money. My family's money, the trust fund I'd inherited, the portfolio my father had built. Jake had access to the lifestyle but not the assets. If we divorced, he'd leave with exactly what he'd brought into the marriage. Nothing. So he'd simply built a second life. Had his cake and ate it too. The room spun. I gripped the desk until my knuckles ached, until the pain centered me. I took screenshots. Dozens of them. Every email, every photo, and there were photos, family photos, the three of them at the beach at Christmas, Emma on Jake's shoulders, all of them smiling like they were the only people in the world who mattered. There were financial records too. He'd been funneling money to Helen. Not much, he was too smart for that. I'd noticed large withdrawals. But small amounts, carefully hidden in cash withdrawals labeled client lunches, and office expenses, and gym membership. Over 6 years, it added up to tens of thousands of dollars. My money used to build his other family. I found the deed to the house, purchased 4 years ago in Helen's name, but the down payment had come from an account Jake had opened secretly. I traced it back through bank statements I found saved on his computer. He'd been skimming from our joint account, from the household budget I'd never monitored closely because I'd trusted him completely. What a fool I'd been. What a blind, trusting fool. There were more emails. Recent ones. My vision tunneled as I read. She's getting suspicious, I think. She's been quiet lately. Watching me. I might need to pull back on visits for a few weeks. He knew. On some level he'd sensed the shift in me. Helen's response. We miss you so much. Emma keeps asking when Daddy's coming home. I hate lying to her, telling her you're on business trips. When are you going to tell her? Your wife. We can't keep living like this, Jake. I need you here. Emma needs her father full-time. You promised me you'd find a way. His reply sent yesterday. I know, baby. I know. I'm working on it. Maybe if I can make her think the marriage is failing naturally, if she's the one who wants to leave, I could play the heartbroken husband, keep some sympathy points with her family. Let me handle this. Trust me. Let me handle this. He was planning to manipulate me into leaving him. To make me think it was my idea so he could play the victim. So he could possibly keep some financial connection to my family through sympathy while running off to his real family. I sat back in his chair in his office, surrounded by the evidence of his double life, and I felt something shift fundamentally inside me. The hurt was still there, a gaping wound that would probably never fully heal. But underneath it, growing stronger with each breath, was rage. Pure, crystalline, focused rage. He'd stolen years from me. He'd made me doubt my own perception of reality. He'd slept in our bed and whispered sweet lies while maintaining an entire family in the suburbs. He'd used my money to do it. And now he was planning to gaslight me into thinking our marriage failing was somehow mutual, somehow natural. No, he didn't get to write this ending. He didn't get to control this narrative anymore. I was taking that power back. I copied everything to a secure cloud drive. Every email, every photo, every financial record. Then I cleared the browser history and shut down the computer, leaving everything exactly as I'd found it. I walked downstairs on legs that felt disconnected from my body. In the mirror by the front door, I barely recognized myself. My face was pale, eyes hollowed out. I looked like a ghost. Maybe I was. The woman I'd been 3 days ago no longer existed. I picked up my phone and made a call. Daddy. My voice cracked. I need your help. And I need you not to ask me questions yet. Can you recommend a private investigator? The best one you know. There was a pause. My father was a corporate attorney, sharp and experienced. He'd probably been expecting this call for years. I'll text you a name and number, he said quietly. Whatever you need, sweetheart. Whatever you need. I hung up and stared at the family photo on the wall. Our wedding day. Jake looked so happy, gazing at me like I was his entire world. Had any of it been real? Even in the beginning? I took the photo off the wall and smashed the frame against the floor. Glass scattered across the hardwood, glittering like broken stars. That felt good. But it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. By the time Jake came home that evening, smelling like her perfume and lies, I was calm. I'd made dinner. I'd set the table. I smiled at him, kissed his cheek, and asked about his day. Stressful, he said, loosening his tie. But better now that I'm home with you. I watched him eat the pasta I'd made, watched him tell me elaborate stories about meetings that never happened, and I matched him smile for smile, lie for lie. I love you, he said, reaching across the table for my hand. I love you too, I replied. The words tasted like poison. But I swallowed them down and began planning his destruction. The private investigator my father recommended was a woman named Rebecca Torres. She met me at a coffee shop across town, somewhere Jake would never go. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed, with silver threading through her dark hair. Tell me everything, she said, her voice professional but not unkind. So I did. I showed her the screenshots, the photos I'd taken of the house, everything I'd found. She listened without judgment, taking notes on a tablet. "What do you want from this investigation?" she asked when I finished. "Just documentation for divorce proceedings or something more comprehensive?" "Everything," I said. The word came out harder than I'd intended. "I want to know every detail of his life that he's hidden from me. Every lie, every deception. I want to know who else knows. I want to know exactly how deep this goes." Rebecca studied me for a long moment. "That kind of comprehensive investigation isn't cheap. Money isn't an object." She nodded slowly. "All right. Give me 2 weeks. I'll find out everything there is to know." She was true to her word. 12 days later we met again and she slid a thick folder across the table to me. "It's worse than you thought," she said simply. I opened the folder. Inside was a complete dossier of Jake's double life, documented with the kind of detail that made my stomach turn. Helen Bennett, age 26. They'd met at a bar 6 years ago when I'd been out of town visiting my sick grandmother. He'd been wearing his wedding ring. She'd known from the start that he was married. According to Rebecca's interviews with Helen's friends, conducted under the guise of a background check for a job application, Helen had believed Jake's story that he was in a loveless marriage, trapped by a prenup, staying for financial stability until he could find a way out. She'd believed she was the love of his life. That Emma was the child he'd always wanted. That eventually he'd leave me and they'd be a real family. She was as much a victim of his lies as I was. Almost. At least she'd known I existed. The timeline was devastating. He'd started the affair 2 months before our wedding. Had seriously considered calling it off, according to text messages Rebecca had recovered from an old phone account. But then my grandmother had passed and left me a substantial inheritance, and suddenly Jake was back in, all smiles and enthusiasm for our future together. Emma had been born 4 months after our wedding. He told me he was on a business trip. He'd been at the hospital holding Helen's hand, cutting his daughter's umbilical cord. Our 5th anniversary, which we'd celebrated at an expensive restaurant where he'd given me diamond earrings and renewed our vows in a private moment that had made me cry with happiness. 2 days earlier he'd been at Emma's 5th birthday party, playing the devoted father. Every major moment of our marriage he'd been living a parallel life. The financial records were damning. He'd stolen over $60,000 from our joint accounts over the years. Small amounts, carefully disguised, but theft nonetheless. But Rebecca had found something else. Something that made my blood run cold. "He's been looking at flights to Costa Rica," she said, pointing to a printout of his search history. "And he's been researching how to open offshore accounts. I think he's planning to run." I looked up sharply. "What?" "The emails with Helen have gotten more urgent lately. She's pressuring him to commit. He's running out of excuses. And I think he's realized that divorcing you legitimately won't work. The prenup is airtight, he won't get anything, and he's too proud to be seen as the broke guy who lost everything. So he's considering just disappearing." "With her?" "With them." Rebecca nodded. "There's a deleted email I was able to recover from his trash folder. He told Helen he's working on a plan. That he might have access to a one-time opportunity that would set them up for life, and then they could disappear together. Start over somewhere new." My mind raced. What opportunity? What was he planning? Then it hit me. My father's firm was in the middle of a major merger. As my husband Jake had been peripherally involved in some of the social aspects. Dinners with clients, parties with investors. He'd met some of the key players. "He's going to try to steal from my father's company," I said slowly. "Or commit some kind of fraud using information he's gathered through me." Rebecca's expression was grim. "That would be my guess. I flagged some suspicious emails to an encrypted account. He's definitely planning something. And whatever it is, he's planning to do it soon and run. He wasn't just betraying me. He was going to betray my family, potentially ruin my father's reputation, and disappear with his other family to live off stolen money." The sheer scope of his sociopathy was breathtaking. "What do you want to do?" Rebecca asked quietly. I closed the folder. My hands were steady. That initial shock and grief had crystallized into something harder. Something unbreakable. "I want to destroy him," I said clearly. "Not just divorce him. Not just expose him. I want to take everything from him the way he's taken everything from me." I want him to lose it all. Helen, Emma, his freedom, his future. Everything. Rebecca didn't flinch. I can't help you do anything illegal. I don't need illegal, I said. I just need methodical. I need to hit him from every angle before he knows what's happening. Can you keep monitoring him? Let me know when he's planning to make his move. She considered this. I can do that. But be careful. Men like him, when they're cornered, they can be dangerous. So can I replied. I paid her in cash and left with the folder under my arm. That night, while Jake was in the shower, always in the shower, washing off evidence of his other life, I sat in our bedroom and planned his complete annihilation. He wanted to steal from my family? Fine. Let him try. I'd make sure he was caught red-handed. He wanted to abandon me and play happy family? I'd make sure Helen knew the complete truth about who she was planning a future with. He wanted to disappear without consequences? I'd make sure the consequences followed him for the rest of his life. This wasn't going to be a simple divorce. This was going to be a systematic dismantling of everything he'd built, everything he'd lied for, everything he'd stolen. Jake came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, smiling at me. You look deep in thought, he said. Just thinking about the future, I replied, smiling back. Yeah. What about it? Just wondering what surprises it might hold. He laughed and kissed the top of my head. As long as we face them together, right? Right, I murmured. But we wouldn't be together. Soon, very soon, he'd be facing them all alone. And I was going to make sure every single surprise cut him to the bone. Rebecca called me 3 days later. He's making his move, she said without preamble. Tomorrow night, there's a charity gala your father's firm is hosting. Jake told Helen he's going with you, but that he'll take care of everything that night. I hacked his email, don't ask how. He's planning to access a computer at the event, one belonging to a senior partner, and transfer funds from the merger escrow account to his offshore account. He's got passwords he's collected somehow. It's ambitious and incredibly stupid, but if he pulls it off before anyone notices, he could disappear with almost $2 million. $2 million. From my father's firm. He was willing to potentially ruin my father, the man who'd welcomed him into our family, who'd tried to mentor him in business, who'd given him chance after chance to prove himself worthy of his daughter. Can we stop the transfer? I asked, my mind already racing. We could alert your father, have the passwords changed. No. Let him do it. Silence on the other end. Then, what? Let him initiate the transfer. But make sure it's traced. Make sure every digital footprint leads directly back to him. And make sure it's caught before the money actually moves, so the theft is attempted but not successful. I want him arrested at the gala, in front of everyone. That's risky. If something goes wrong. Nothing will go wrong. Can you loop in my father? He'll need to coordinate with the firm's cybersecurity team. Another pause. You're sure about this? Completely. All right. I'll set it up. But there's something else you should know. My stomach tightened. What? Helen's pregnant. About 3 months along. She hasn't told Jake yet. I found a positive pregnancy test in her bathroom trash and confirmed with her doctor's office. She's planning to tell him after he handles everything with you. Another baby. He was going to have another child while married to me. The room tilted. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Are you okay? Rebecca asked. Fine, I whispered. I'm fine. This doesn't change anything. It makes it more important that we do this right. Because now there would be 2 children growing up with Jake as a father figure. 2 children who would learn from his example. Emma already called him daddy, trusted him, loved him. Would he do to them what he'd done to me? Would he teach his daughters that lying and cheating and stealing were acceptable if he wanted something badly enough? No. I wouldn't let that happen. One more thing, I said to Rebecca. I need you to compile everything we have, all the evidence of the affair, the financial theft from our joint accounts, everything, into a comprehensive package. And I need you to deliver it to Helen the morning after the gala. You want her to know. I want her to know exactly who she's been sleeping with, who the father of her children is. I want her to have a chance to make an informed decision about her future. She deserves that much, even if she did sleep with a married man. All right, Rebecca said. It'll be done. I hung up and called my father. Rebecca Torres is going to contact you, I said. Listen to everything she says. Dad? Tomorrow night at the gala, no matter what happens, no matter how bad it looks, trust me. Okay. Sweetheart, what's going on? Justice, I said softly. Justice is going on. The night of the gala, I wore red. A scarlet dress that hugged every curve with a neckline that was just shy of scandalous. I'd had my hair professionally done, makeup applied by an expert. I looked devastating. Powerful. Jake's eyes widened when he saw me. Wow, he said. You look, wow. Thank you. I smiled. I wanted to look special tonight. It feels like an important evening. It's just a work thing for your dad. Still, important. The gala was held at the Riverside Hotel, a glittering affair with crystal chandeliers and champagne flowing freely. I stayed close to Jake through the cocktail hour, playing the perfect wife. I laughed at his jokes, touched his arm affectionately, smiled at his colleagues, all while watching him watch the room. Calculating. Planning. Around 9 o'clock he excused himself to the restroom. I watched him veer off toward the administrative offices instead. I gave him 5 minutes. Then I followed. The hallway was empty, dimly lit. Through the window of one of the offices, I could see Jake's silhouette hunched over a computer, typing frantically. My father's head of security, Tom Briggs, stood beside me in the shadows. Rebecca had coordinated everything. The transfer's initiating now, Tom murmured, listening to something through an earpiece connected to the cybersecurity team. They're tracing it in real time. Got him. The offshore account is registered to a shell company in Jake's name. We have everything we need. Wait until he finishes, I whispered. Let him think he's succeeded. We watched Jake type a few more commands. Then he sat back, exhaled, and smiled. Actually smiled. Triumphant. Relieved. He thought he'd won. Thought he was about to escape with $2 million, run off to Costa Rica with Helen and Emma and the new baby, and live happily ever after on stolen money. Now, I said. Tom made a call. Seconds later, police officers appeared at both ends of the hallway. Tom opened the office door. Step away from the computer, please. Jake spun around. His face went white when he saw the police. Then he saw me standing in the hallway and confusion flooded his features. Babe, what's going on? You were just attempting to embezzle $1.8 million from my father's firm, I said calmly. Using passwords you collected over the past 6 months and an offshore account you opened 3 weeks ago. The cybersecurity team has been monitoring you since you logged in. Every keystroke documented. What? Oh, that's insane. I was just checking email. Save it for your lawyer. I looked at the police officers. He's all yours. They moved in, reading Jake his rights as they handcuffed him. He kept looking at me, shock and betrayal in his eyes. The irony wasn't lost on me. How could you do this? He asked as they led him past me. I'm your husband. I met his eyes. No. You were my husband when you married me and meant those vows. You stopped being my husband the first time you slept with her. You stopped being anything to me except a problem that needed solving. Her. What are you? Understanding dawned. About Helen. About Emma. About the baby she's carrying. About every lie you've told for the past 6 years. I know everything, Jake. Everything. His face crumbled. Not with remorse. I knew him well enough now to recognize that. With defeat. He'd lost and he knew it. They took him away. I stood in that hallway in my red dress and my perfect makeup and felt absolutely nothing. The woman who would have cried, who would have fallen apart, was long gone. My father appeared beside me, putting a steadying hand on my shoulder. You did what you had to do, he said quietly. I'm not done yet, I replied. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't face our house, our bed, the life we pretended to share. Instead, I checked into a hotel and lay awake watching the ceiling, waiting for morning. At 8 a.m. Rebecca called. The package was delivered to Helen's house 10 minutes ago. Certified mail, signature required. She has everything. Thank you. There's something else. Jake made bail. Posted at 6 a.m. I have someone watching both locations, your house and Helen's. He went to Helen's. Of course he did. His real family. The people he actually cared about. Let me know if he goes anywhere else, I said. I spent the day meeting with divorce attorneys. I chose the most aggressive one. A shark of a woman named Patricia Klein who promised to make the proceedings as painful as possible for Jake. With the prenup and the evidence of theft plus the affair, he won't get a penny, Patricia said, reviewing the documents I provided. In fact, you can probably sue him for the money he stole from your joint accounts, plus emotional damages. Do it. All of it. There's the matter of his arrest. If he's convicted of embezzlement. When he's convicted, he's looking at serious prison time. Federal charges since it involves wire fraud and interstate transfers. We're talking 5 to 10 years minimum. Good. Let him rot. My phone rang. He's leaving Helen's house, she said. And Helen's throwing things at his car. Looks like she didn't take the news well. A grim smile touched my lips. Keep me updated. The next call came an hour later. Jake was at our house. My house, technically, another thing protected by the prenup. I'd already had the locks changed that morning. I drove home to confront him. He was sitting on the front porch steps, head in his hands. He looked up when my car pulled into the driveway. He looked destroyed. Eyes red, face haggard, still wearing the same clothes from the gala. Please, he said as I approached. Please, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I unlocked the front door. You built a second life. You stole from me, lied to me, used me. And you were planning to frame yourself as a victim while running off with money stolen from my family. What part am I misunderstanding? You followed me inside. I never meant for it to happen. Helen and I, it happened. And then Emma came and I couldn't just abandon them. But you could abandon me. That's not fair. I stayed with you. I laughed. It sounded harsh even to my own ears. You stayed for the money. Don't pretend it was anything else. The second you thought you could steal enough to live comfortably, you were ready to disappear. I love her, he said desperately. I love Helen. I love my daughter. I'm sorry, but I do. And I thought I loved you too at first. Maybe I did. But it changed and I didn't know how to. Stop. I held up a hand. I don't care. I genuinely do not care about your rationalizations or your feelings or your tragic conflict between two women. You made your choices. Now you live with the consequences. What consequences? You've already destroyed my life. I'm facing prison. Helen won't talk to me. She kicked me out, said she never wants to see me again. Emma was crying, asking why Mommy was so upset with Daddy. Do you have any idea what that's like? Do you have any idea what it's like to answer your husband's phone and hear another child call him Daddy? My voice was ice. Do you know what it's like to realize your entire marriage has been a performance? To discover that the man you trusted most in the world has been systematically lying to you for years? He had no answer to that. The divorce papers will be served tomorrow, I continued. You'll get nothing. And if you're smart, you'll take whatever plea deal the prosecutor offers, because if this goes to trial, I'll make sure every sordid detail comes out. Your affair, your theft, your fraud. Everything. I'll be registered as a felon. I'll never get a decent job again. Should have thought of that before you tried to steal $2 million. God, you're cold. He stared at me like I was a stranger. When did you become so cold? When you made me into someone who couldn't trust anyone. When you taught me that love is just another con. You did this, Jake. You created this version of me. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. And don't come back. If you need anything from the house, coordinate through lawyers. He stood there for a moment, looking lost. Then something shifted in his expression. Anger replacing the desperation. You think you're so perfect, he spat. You with your trust fund and your daddy's connections. You've never struggled for anything in your life. Never had to fight. Helen understood me. She didn't judge me for wanting more, for wanting better. Helen thought you were getting divorced, I said flatly. She thought she was building a future with you. But sure, tell yourself she understood you. Tell yourself whatever you need to justify what you did. It doesn't matter anymore. You're done. He left. I watched him drive away in the BMW that was registered in my name, that I'd already reported as unauthorized use to the police. They'd pull him over within a few miles. I closed the door and leaned against it. The house was silent. Empty. It had probably always been empty, I just hadn't noticed. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Helen's mother just showed up at her house. Moving boxes in the car. Looks like Helen's going home to family. Thought you'd want to know. I did want to know. Not because it gave me any satisfaction. Helen was a victim too in her way, but because it meant Emma would be safe. Away from Jake's influence. Raised by people who would hopefully teach her better values than her father possessed. Another text came through. An unknown number. I don't know who you are, but thank you. Thank you for telling me the truth. I'm sorry for what I did. I believed his lies. I thought you were the enemy. I was wrong. Helen. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. Take care of your daughters. Break the cycle. Don't let them grow up thinking this is normal. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I won't. And for what it's worth, I really am sorry. So am I typed back. And I was. Sorry for all of it. Sorry that Jake had damaged so many lives in his selfish pursuit of having everything. I deleted the number and blocked it. That chapter was closed. The divorce was finalized in record time. Jake's lawyer advised him not to contest anything given the pending criminal charges. He signed the papers from jail, unable to make bail a second time after violating the terms of his release by harassing me. The prenup held. He got nothing. I got the house, the car, everything we'd built together. It felt hollow, but I'd take it. His trial was set for 6 months out, but his lawyer was already negotiating a plea deal. With the evidence stacked against him, digital forensics, video footage, testimony from the cybersecurity team, he had no chance of winning at trial. The prosecutor was offering 7 years with possibility of parole after 5 if he pled guilty. 7 years. He'd be 43 when he got out. Middle-aged, with a felony record, no career prospects, and 2 children who would grow up knowing their father was a criminal. I should have felt vindicated. Triumphant. Something. Instead I felt carved out. Hollow. I went to therapy. Dr. Sarah. Wait, no. Dr. Rachel Isaac. She was patient, compassionate, everything I needed. You're grieving, she explained during one session. Not just the relationship, but your sense of safety in the world. Your ability to trust. That's significant trauma. I destroyed his life, I said flatly. I set him up. I made sure he'd lose everything. Doesn't that make me just as bad as him? Does it? I don't know. I wanted him to hurt the way he hurt me. And he is hurting. But I don't feel better. I don't feel anything. Revenge rarely brings the closure we expect, she said gently. You exposed the truth and protected yourself and others from further harm. Those are valid actions. But they can't undo what was done to you. Healing from betrayal takes time. Longer than most people expect. How long? She smiled sadly. As long as it takes. I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore. Couldn't walk through rooms where we'd played house while he was planning his escape. I bought a smaller place across town, somewhere with no memories. My father tried to help, but I needed space from everyone who'd been part of that life. I took a leave from my design work and traveled for a while. Europe then Asia. Putting distance between myself and the wreckage. Somewhere in Thailand, sitting on a beach watching the sunset, I finally cried. Really cried. Months of held-back tears came pouring out and I sobbed into my hands, mourning everything I'd lost. Not Jake, I didn't miss him. But I missed who I'd been before. The woman who could trust. Who could love without calculating the angles. Who could sleep through the night without checking and rechecking locks. He'd stolen that from me and no amount of revenge could give it back. 2 years later, I was in a coffee shop in my new neighborhood when I saw her. Helen. Older now, tired looking, with a toddler on her hip, and Emma. Bigger now, maybe 7, holding her hand. Our eyes met across the room. She froze. I should have looked away. Should have pretended I hadn't seen her. But something made me stand up and walk over. Hi, I said quietly. Hi. She shifted the toddler. A little girl with Jake's dark hair. I didn't know you lived around here. I moved after the divorce. Right. Of course. She glanced at Emma, who was watching me with curious eyes. Emma, honey, why don't you pick out a cookie for you and your sister? I'll be right here. Emma skipped off to the counter. Helen turned back to me. He's getting out next month, she said. Early release for good behavior. His lawyer called me. Wanted to know if Emma wanted a relationship with him. What did you say? I said no. Not until she's old enough to understand what he did and make her own choice. She deserves to know the truth, but she's too young to process it now. She still asks about him sometimes. I tell her Daddy made some mistakes and has to be away for a while. That's good. Honest but age-appropriate. Helen studied me. You're different than I imagined. When I was with him, you were this villain in my head. The cold wife who didn't understand him, who kept him trapped in a loveless marriage. But you weren't any of those things, were you? No. I loved him. Completely. Until I found out who he really was. I'm sorry, she said, and this time it sounded genuine. Weighted with real understanding. For my part in it. I was young and stupid and I believed what I wanted to believe. But that doesn't excuse sleeping with a married man. Having his child while he was married to you. I'm sorry. I forgave you a long time ago, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. You were lied to too. Maybe not the same way, but he manipulated both of us. The toddler on her hip started to fuss. Helen bounced her gently. This is Sophie, she said. She's almost 2. She'll never know him, not really. I'm okay with that. She looks happy. They both do. We're doing okay. My parents have been amazing. It's been hard, but we're building something real now. Something honest. She paused. What about you? Are you okay? I'd started taking on design clients again. I'd made a few friends in my new neighborhood. I'd gone on a couple of dates, though nothing serious yet. The idea of trusting someone that deeply again still felt impossible. But I wasn't the hollowed out shell I'd been 2 years ago. I was learning to be whole again in my own way. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Emma came running back with 2 cookies, chattering excitedly about the sprinkles. Helen smiled at her daughters, and something in that smile was fierce. Proactive. She was doing everything she could to give them a better life than the one Jake had offered. I should go, Helen said. But, thank you. For this. For not hating me. Hating you would give him too much power, I replied. He doesn't get any more of my energy. Not even hate. She nodded, understanding in her eyes, and gathered her daughters to leave. I watched them go, this little family that had been built on lies but was transforming into something honest, and felt a strange sense of peace. Jake had tried to have it all. 2 families, 2 lives, stolen money, perfect escapes. And he'd ended up with nothing. No wife, no partner, no daughters who would claim him. Just a prison cell and the consequences of his choices. I'd thought revenge would feel triumphant. Satisfying. Instead, it had just felt necessary. A clearing away of debris so I could rebuild. The real victory wasn't his destruction. It was this. Sitting in a coffee shop in my new neighborhood, having a civil conversation with the woman he'd used as ammunition against me, and feeling nothing but tired relief that it was over. I'd survived. More than survived. I'd forced myself through the fire and come out forged in steel. I'd never be that trusting woman again, and sometimes I mourned her. But the woman I'd become was stronger. Harder to break. Impossible to fool. Jake had taken my innocence, my trust, my ability to love without fear. But he hadn't taken my future. That was still mine and mine alone. I finished my coffee and walked out into the sunshine, into the rest of my life, and I didn't look back. Not even once.